been a couple years since I first got introduced to Joyner Lucas, and I can't say that I've had many negative experiences with his music. Although not always the most interesting, they've always given me hope that he would be one of the artists that came out of the lyrical, spiritual rap scene that would be able to deliver something that was compelling, given the conversation that he helped aid to during his I'm Not Racist track in 2017, track that goes on about the setbacks and the struggles of stereotypes and perception amongst the Black and Caucasian community. While this track doesn't do anything to solve those issues, I think it tries its best to be nuanced enough to have an at-length discussion, one that merits a music video that was really passionate and really emotional. Not long after that, he received even more buzz from his contribution to Eminem's third track off Kamikaze, Lucky You, where he plays the part of an underdog who's trying to make his come up that doesn't necessarily rely on the fame and doesn't really expect to win a Grammy or expect to receive much recognition. It's a really great alley-oop to Eminem, who on the same track talks about everything that he has accomplished and what he's not willing to compromise. He continued his traction, eventually getting into friendly rap competition with Tory Lanez, who eventually ended their competition and collabed over the song Suge. And that's probably one of the biggest ways people can encounter Joyner Lucas's music, is by hearing him do rap remixes over other artists' music. He's done it with Gucci Gang, Mask Off, he's done it with Bank Account, even going to release a mixtape in that same year that, while to me was overall underwhelming, contains Joyner Lucas's best moment to date. Keep It 100. A fantastic storytelling track that follows the perspective of this $100 bill that's being passed around from person to person. This song showcased exactly how focused and creative Joyner Lucas could be when he wanted to be. But I say all this to say that while Joyner Lucas is, yes, an artist that could be interpreted as corny, he is also an artist that's put in a ton of work and has given some really strong moments and efforts in the past. So I really had no reason to believe that ADHD would be a bad, terrible, or weak album. But he continued to worry me because he kept releasing song after song and making them single after single, so that by the time we got to the record, we only ended up with 6 new tracks, because 4 of them are already intros and 8 of which we've already heard. This could also be attributed to his deal with Atlantic falling under and him having to go independent, but that's neither here nor there. Releasing them in this way, to me, is just less anticipation for the overall album. So in the intro, we get an extremely eerie, haunting piano and lingering vocal snippet under what seems to be an adult losing their patience with a child who very clearly isn't interpreting the images he's being exposed to the correct way. This intro gives us insight into the issues he details with old acquaintances and even family members, where he doesn't seem very off-put by the idea of not keeping promises he made to them before fame, as he talks multiple times in I Lied and the track with Logic about his family not expecting much out of him anyway. Not only made Joyner Lucas feel underrated and overlooked, as also described on his feature during Lucky You's intro 2 years ago, giving this album an underdog story, he also legitimately has ADHD, adding even further obstacles and further setbacks. So right off the bat, I'm rooting for Joyner Lucas, but then the trouble immediately kicks in. Track War. Joyner Lucas digs into his very empty bag of harmonies that make him come off like a dollar store version of Ty Dolla $ign, where he raps very disconnected, most of what he says not connecting to his previous line, so it feels like he's just rapping for the sake of rapping. And the beat on The War is so faded and lifeless, it feels like I'm at the beach in a game of The Sims. I Love is an auto-tuned wannabe trap anthem without the charisma of a trap rapper, and I swear to God, hearing Joyner Lucas rap and sing his own hooks is like watching old people fuck. They just don't feature much vocal flexibility, so his voice ends up coming off like it's been diagnosed with arthritis. Track Devil's Work, after sitting with for months, has got to be the most childish way I've ever heard someone interpret their idol's death. And while I get that some of the people he references in this song have literally been physically, emotionally, and overall damaging to people in general, I'm neither emotionally mature or intelligent enough to understand this level of infatuation, where I'd question the deity of my faith because someone whose art I liked, 99% of whom I've never encountered, died, and not the people that didn't abide by the moral compass that I placed on them, again, 99% of whom I've never encountered. At that point, you're asking for which characters you want to make it to the end of your favorite TV show on the foundation of who's most liked, totally forgetting that this is real life, not a TV show. This is like an 8-year-old having a pet pig and then finally figuring out where bacon comes from. The track Goldmine showed me how wrong I was thinking that Gunna was just a Young Thug clone, because I swear that he was on the beginning of that track. Type it in, this is legitimately a Gunna type beat. A lot of these beats are just type beats that other rappers would normally be rapping over, but Joyner Lucas does his best variation of their styles. The skits on this record do a good enough job of explaining how easy it is for others to carelessly comment on and treat those who suffer from symptoms of ADHD, like during the Chris Tucker skit where he doesn't seem too empathetic about the challenges Joyner could be facing in releasing his new music, all the way to explaining how easy it is for others to carelessly handicap someone who suffers from symptoms of ADHD, like on Screening and Comprehension Evaluation, where Joyner's doctor constantly talks down to him, ultimately getting frustrated and fed up with Joyner's symptoms and thoughtlessly prescribing him lean and coke. Will is a good track though. I like Will a lot. Paying homage to an idol while they're still around to hear it, regardless of how humble you need to be in order to get that message across. Referencing Will's most popular work in a song that is about you to help drive that homage even further, I totally respect it. The title track on this album has Joyner Lucas talking about the challenges and the setbacks that he's gone through with such a harsh diagnosis, but I can't help but feel like Juice WRLD would have done this hook way more justice. And I only mention Juice WRLD because it sounds like he's emulating him. A hook like this just benefits more from the vocal vibrance of a Trippie Redd or even the carefree melodic tone of a Lil Uzi Vert, traits that Joyner either doesn't have or just hasn't tapped into yet. It's also awkward he'd attempt to make a song expounding on the setbacks and challenges of ADHD, one of the most melodic driven cuts on the album. Did he expect "It's my ADHD" to be like catchy or something? It reminds me of when Logic tried harmonizing "I just wanna die, I don't wanna be alive." Like, nigga, are you serious? Even if you sing it, it's still cringe. The other tracks on this album, like Still Can't Love, comprise of Joyner talking about his love life, which, if you can believe it, is actually more sleep-inducing than the drugs his doctor recommends he take on the skits. What is Fabolous doing on this record? And saying absolutely nothing during his feature. And I guess this is my biggest issue with the record, okay? Why make an album featuring so many songs that essentially say the same shit? I thought one of the setbacks of ADHD was difficulty paying attention, but Joyner seems laser focused on this one theme. And of course you can imagine, with so many tracks talking about the same thing, natural selection eventually becomes a huge part of the album. And what I mean by that is you essentially start going through tracks that basically say the exact same thing, but sticking with the ones you believe achieve those ideas best. For example, is a track like Lotto really necessary when 10 Bands realizes the exact same idea? While yes, not necessarily featuring the most creative instrumental, it gets its point across in less time, with better flows, and even better transitions. Are tracks like I Lied and the cut featuring Logic even necessary when Revenge acknowledges those same ideas with far more passion, emotion, and drive? They aren't little pieces of information here and there and then those are the themes for the entire track. No, like, these ideas are packed into every song, so each track essentially becomes the same thing. By the time I get to the end, I just feel like I'm watching an episode of a TV show where the main character keeps reliving the same moment until they find some type of hole in their reality. For a guy who basically made his fan base off of his lyricism, for him to have so little to say on a project that is all about him, it just leaves me worried about where he's gonna go next. And this isn't a situation that plagues just Joyner Lucas, it plagues a large majority of the lyrical spiritual miracles that so many of us have loved in the past. Talking for so long but saying nothing in the way of substance. And the music that they make that attempts to have thematic foundations to them, where they try to have these substantive, nuanced takes, are generally pretty shallow. Joyner Lucas, in my opinion, with ADHD, just embodies the idea of there's more to rap than just your lyrics. If you enjoyed it, keep loving it, and I'll tune in to talk to you guys next time. You let me know how you felt about the album in the comment section down below, and I'll see you. I'm out. Peace.